Yesterday, we talked about road trip food. Today, who knows? Chris Father Gilbrown from youtube.com/that'srank. Everything to do with food. Please give this channel a subscribe. Chris, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to take a different kind of a road trip today, John. Certainly one that we all hope that we never have to take over the course of our lives, but you may have heard. Several members of Stephen Colbert's staff were arrested and detained for unlawfully entering the U.S. Capitol buildings this past week. This hadn't crossed your
What?
your line
No.
of sight? Yeah, so
I'm out of the loop.
I'll give you a brief recap here. So the show was taping skits featuring Triumph the Comic Insult Dog that had been authorized entry into the building. However, the staff stayed past the end of the day and wound up getting arrested for trespassing while on the U.S. Capitol grounds. Turns out they're not feeling all that funny about people being on the U.S. Capitol these days.
So wait, they were there legitimately
until they weren't.
Overstayed their welcome.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, got it.
So that's right. So that includes Robert Smigel, who is Triumph the Comic Dog, amongst about 8 or 9 other staffers. Now you can assume it's almost certainly going to be worked out, but it got me to thinking about how the staff might have to be preparing for prison in the event that they were going to be staying for a while.
Okay.
I hear prison's rough. I don't know personally, but from what I understand, it's not an easy go. You've heard talk of prison food, and they're not kidding. It's high calorie, low flavored garbage designed to be purchased in bulk on the cheap, ultimately, because they're not going to invest a ton of money into the prison system. But apparently, with a little bit of creativity, you might be able to get by with some of these tips from some past hardened criminals.
Oh, God. Okay.
Let's suppose you were feeling up for some sweet potato pie. It starts off with a crust made from 5 butter packets, a couple of sugar packets, a honey packet, and some crushed graham crackers. And then the filling is mostly comprised of canned yams. After a little bit of time in the microwave and a toaster oven, the result is a personal-sized pie.
They can have microwaves and toaster ovens in jail?
I think if you're on your best behavior, you can get your hands on all sorts of things.
Okay.
So this is for the good. This is for the good bad criminals at the end of the day. Probably not the guys who are spending time down in the hole. But
Noted. Okay. Now
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. Sure.
yeah. So if you're feeling cheesecake, this one actually comes from Piper Kerman, who wrote the book that eventually became Orange is the New Black on Netflix.
All right.
So her recipe for cheesecake is she takes some crushed graham crackers, molded into a crust with the help of some stolen margarine. You might not want to get caught stealing the margarine because that could put a damper, again, throw you out of the ability.
What are you
to
in
use
for?
microwaves
I
and
stole
stuff.
margarine. From where?
Right.
From the jail. Yeah.
Now to make the filling, Kerman smashed a Laughing Cow cheese wheel into some vanilla flavored instant pudding mix, and then gradually added in some lemon juice and powdered non-dairy creamer. And then finally she poured the filling on the crust and put the dessert on on ice in her Bunky's cleaning bucket to chill until ready to eat.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, and for those who don't have a bunkie or their Bunky's ice, allowing it to sit in a refrigerator for a few hours will work just fine if you have access to a refrigerator. Again, you got to be one of those prisoners who's getting in good with the people in charge. I'm thinking have access.
Please
to
tell me someone has a cookbook out.
there is a
on
couple
this
of cookbooks that
There
actually
has
exist.
to be. That's
There
awesome.
are. Yeah. I'll link some in the YouTube description for this one as well for some fun cookbooks that you can pick up for cooking in prison. Burritos can be made out of anything on hand that's stuffed into a tortilla, but this recipe comes from Clifton Collins Jr., who claims that ramen noodles are actually the new cigarettes, wielding some of the highest trade-in value in the entire prison. Apparently, ramen's where it's at these days.
Okay.
First, you cook and season a bag of ramen in its own packaging. You just add water directly into the bag. And while that cooks, you mix together some Velveeta, some hot sauce, jalapeno-flavored bagged popcorn, Cheetos, and goldfish crackers. Then you add the ramen and stuff the mixture into a commissary tortilla. So commissary is where you get your tortillas. Apparently everything else is just readily available, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
I'll finish things off with lasagna, John. So according to Reddit user Jacob Gill 86, when he was locked up, he concocted a lasagna that was really good, but kind of labor intensive and expensive. It started with crushed cheese crackers that he mixed up with some seasonings and water and formed into a dough. Then it would get flattened out and microwaved, turning it into a noodle-like thing as it cooked and coalesced.
Noodle-like thing. Yum.
Beggars can't be choosers in prison, John. Then it gets flattened out and placed in layers amidst hunks of, and this is top quality eating, Velveeta and summer sausage, tomato sauce, and whatever veggies you can get your hands on. So if you're going to be locked up for a while, hopefully these recipes are there to help you out. And there's lots more that I'm going to link in the YouTube video that you can check out on my site when this gets posted.
handcuff yourself to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/That's Rank, for all kinds of fascinating conversations about food. Chris Father Gilbrown, youtube.com/That's Rank.